AITA for refusing to let my younger brother's girlfriend move in with us, even though she claims she's part of the family now. I, 32M, live in a modest two-bedroom apartment with my dog, a small office space I work from, and a fairly structured routine. My younger brother, Alex, 28M, has been dating his girlfriend, Jenna, 27F, for about a year now. When their relationship started, I welcomed her warmly, thinking it would be good for Alex to have someone he connects with deeply. We all got along at first, but over the past few months, things have started to feel overwhelming, and now I feel like I'm in a situation where I might be seen as the villain no matter what I do. The background is important. I rent this apartment myself, and while it's not huge, it's comfortable for me. Alex has always been a bit dependent. He had some financial issues after college and moved back in with our parents for a while, but he's been trying to stand on his own. Jenna has her own apartment, but apparently isn't happy living alone, which is fair, but it has created tension. It all started a few months ago when Alex mentioned casually that Jenna might stay over more often because she didn't like being alone. I was fine with occasional overnight visits, but it quickly escalated. Soon, Jenna was coming over multiple nights a week, leaving her things in my living room, and making herself very comfortable in ways that felt intrusive. She started to treat the apartment almost as her own, asking if she could use my kitchen for long periods, leaving dishes, and making comments like, "Since I'm practically family, it's fine, right?" I tried to set boundaries politely, explaining that I wasn't comfortable with her storing things here or treating my space as shared long-term, but it seemed to roll off her like water. The real tipping point came 2 weeks ago. Alex casually mentioned that Jenna was considering moving in because it makes more sense financially, and we're basically a family anyway. I froze. I tried to explain that this wasn't just about money. It was my personal space, my home, my sanctuary, and I don't feel comfortable with a new adult essentially moving in permanently without me having any say. Alex argued that I was being unreasonable, saying that I should support his relationship and that he and Jenna had plans for the future that I should get used to. I tried to reason with him, pointing out that this isn't a family inheritance situation or a communal house. It's a rented apartment with one leaseholder, me. The argument escalated. Jenna texted me directly saying things like, "You know you love me, and I love Alex. This isn't going to be weird. We're family now. Don't be difficult." I didn't reply, hoping that Alex would understand my stance and handle it. Instead, Alex got visibly frustrated and started avoiding me. Over the past week, he's been calling my boundaries stubborn and immature. Jenna continues to treat the apartment like a temporary home, sometimes staying even when Alex isn't around and leaving personal items out. I have tried multiple approaches, setting clear rules about how many nights a week she can stay, making sure personal items don't stay over, asking for discussion before any long-term plans. None of it sticks. I even offered to help Alex and Jenna find a bigger apartment together, so they could be comfortable and not feel trapped, but he interpreted that as me kicking them out and being unsupportive. Our parents are now involved. They think I'm overreacting and that I should let them be happy. Friends are split. Some say I'm protecting my space. Others say I should be more accommodating as a brother. A few things that make this particularly tricky. I don't dislike Jenna personally. She's polite when she's not overstepping boundaries. She's funny, and I don't have anything against her. It's the dynamic and the sense of encroachment that bother me. Alex has never had a serious girlfriend live with him before. He seems to genuinely think that moving in is a normal step and that I should just accept it. My apartment is not large. Even if I wanted to accommodate her, it would completely change my lifestyle. I work from home, need quiet, and the living room is also my office for part of the day. Last night, the situation came to a head. Jenna showed up unannounced while I was working, asking if she could leave some luggage here for the night because she was coming back from a weekend trip. I told her firmly that I was not comfortable with that, and she looked shocked and said, "You're being so harsh. We're practically family now." Alex then called me, yelling over the phone about how I'm making her feel unwelcome in the only home she knows, and how can you be so selfish? I told him I wasn't selfish. I just didn't want a roommate situation imposed on me without discussion. He hung up, and I haven't spoken to him since. At this point, I feel like no matter what I do, someone is going to view me as unreasonable. I've been considering a few options, reaffirming my boundaries strictly and refusing any permanent move-in, which could permanently damage my relationship with Alex. Softening boundaries slightly, like allowing a few extra nights per month, but that might just encourage more encroachment. Suggesting Alex and Jenna find a new place together, which I already proposed, but apparently feels like I'm blocking their happiness. I genuinely want to maintain a relationship with Alex and Jenna, but I also value my home and my boundaries. I feel like the idea of we're family now doesn't obligate me to share my living space permanently. AITA for refusing to let Jenna move in with us, even though she claims she's part of the family now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister after an argument over our parents' estate. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Lisa, 29F. Growing up, we were close, but as adults, our relationship has always been a bit strained due to differences in personality and life choices. Our parents, who passed away unexpectedly last year, left behind a fairly substantial estate, including a house, some savings, and several sentimental items. My sister and I are the only heirs. After the funeral, we sat down to discuss the estate. Initially, it seemed straightforward. Mom and Dad had verbally expressed that they wanted things split fairly, but there was no formal will. I suggested we divide the money evenly, with the house being sold and the proceeds split as well. Lisa, however, insisted that she should get the house because she had lived there longer while taking care of our parents in their final years. She argued that her sacrifices should be recognized, and she was upset that I hadn't offered the house to her immediately. I told her that while I appreciated her efforts, fairness meant splitting everything evenly. She became defensive, claiming I was cold and ungrateful for everything she had done. The conversation escalated quickly. I reminded her that I had also spent significant time helping our parents, particularly managing finances and organizing medical appointments, and that her argument implied my contributions didn't matter. Lisa accused me of trying to minimize her sacrifices to get more money, which I found deeply unfair. The argument ended with Lisa storming out, declaring she would take legal action if necessary. After she left, I spent the next few days trying to calm down and think rationally. I realized that while Lisa did invest a lot in caring for her parents, I had also contributed in ways she refused to acknowledge. I reached out to her, suggesting we meet with a mediator to resolve the situation calmly, but she refused, saying she didn't want to negotiate with someone who clearly didn't value family loyalty. About a week later, Lisa's partner called me, insisting that I needed to apologize for being so harsh and dismissive. I refused, stating that I wasn't trying to hurt her, but was standing firm on what I felt was fair. At this point, my extended family got involved. Cousins and aunts started pressuring me to apologize to keep the family peace, and some even accused me of being greedy. They argued that my sister's emotional pain was more important than the exact division of assets. I felt blindsided. To me, fairness and honesty were being labeled as cruelty simply because it upset someone else. The situation worsened when Lisa posted a vague message on social media about being betrayed by family and learning who really values you when money is involved. Several mutual friends reached out to me, asking if I had done something wrong, and I explained the situation. Most were sympathetic, but a few suggested I should apologize anyway to avoid long-term damage to my relationship with Lisa. I've tried to reach a compromise by offering to let her keep sentimental items of her choosing from the house, but she insists on the whole property. She refuses any suggestion of selling and splitting the proceeds. I told her I wasn't willing to let her have the house outright because I felt it was unfair and legally risky without a formal will. She responded by cutting off communication entirely and threatening to sue. My parents' estate is now in legal limbo. I've hired a lawyer to ensure everything is handled properly, and we're awaiting court mediation. I haven't apologized, and my extended family continues to pressure me, saying that I'm causing irreparable damage to my relationship with my sister and to the family as a whole. I feel trapped between doing what I believe is fair and being labeled the villain. Here's what's making me question myself. Lisa is genuinely upset, and part of me wonders if I could have handled things more delicately. Maybe I was too blunt about fairness and not empathetic enough about her sacrifices. On the other hand, I can't help but feel that apologizing for standing firm on what I believe is right would be admitting I'm wrong when I honestly don't think I am. I want to maintain family relationships, but I also want to uphold fairness and my parents' implied wishes. So, AITA for refusing to apologize to my sister, even though the situation is tearing our family apart. AITA for refusing to cover my sister's wedding costs, even though she says I owe her for past help. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Megan, 28F. Our relationship has always been a bit complicated. Growing up, I was the responsible, organized one, and she was more impulsive and carefree. This dynamic carried into adulthood. Whenever she got into financial trouble, I was the one she came to for help. I've lent her money on multiple occasions, sometimes substantial amounts, without expecting repayment. Sometimes she paid me back, sometimes she didn't. I've always considered it part of being family, but it has left me a bit resentful at times. Recently, Megan got engaged to her fiancé, Daniel, 30M. She started discussing her wedding plans, and that's when things got tense. Megan and Daniel want a fairly large wedding at a nice venue, and they expect it to be a wedding to remember, which she told me includes an open bar, live band, professional photographer, and a destination honeymoon for them and their immediate families. Early on, I made it clear that while I'd love to celebrate with her, I couldn't financially contribute beyond helping with smaller details like buying a dress for my role as maid of honor and covering my travel costs. Megan, however, interpreted my boundaries differently. She sent me multiple messages saying things like, "After everything I've done for you, you should want to help me," and "You owe me for all the times I bailed you out when you were struggling." This frustrated me because, from my perspective, those were loans, gifts, or favors given freely, and they were in the past. I don't think family debts carry over into wedding planning. I reminded her of this, saying, "I've always helped you because I wanted to, not because I expect you to pay me back in gifts or events." She did not take this well. The conflict escalated when she sent a family group message to both our parents and me. She wrote that I was selfish and refusing to support my sister on the most important day of my life, and suggested that our parents might want to step in because I was being unreasonable. This felt manipulative to me, so I responded privately to my parents first, explaining that I wasn't refusing to celebrate or attend, just that I wasn't funding her wedding. I also told them that framing it as a moral obligation tied to past help was unfair. Our parents sided with her initially, saying that they hoped I would contribute something, even if it was smaller than what she wants. Megan then directly messaged me, saying she had started planning her wedding budget around the idea that I would contribute $5,000 toward the venue. I was shocked because that amount is far beyond what I can comfortably afford. I explained that I could not, under any circumstances, provide that money, and that expecting me to do so because of past favors was not reasonable. She accused me of being ungrateful and claimed that I was ruining her special day. Things got worse when our parents called me, asking why I was being so difficult and implying that I should step up to maintain family harmony. I tried to reason with them, saying that contributing beyond my means would not be healthy for me financially and emotionally. They argued that weddings are about family support and that it's customary to help. I reminded them that I have supported Megan multiple times before, sometimes at my own financial stress, and that past assistance does not obligate me to pay thousands for a wedding I cannot afford. After that, Megan stopped speaking to me directly and began venting to mutual friends and extended family. I heard from a cousin that she's been telling people I'm refusing to celebrate her love and that I don't care about family. This hurt because I'm planning to attend her wedding, travel for it, participate as maid of honor, and help where I can reasonably do so. I even offered to help with smaller, non-monetary things like assembling invitations, coordinating with vendors on the day of, or helping plan a playlist for the reception. She dismissed these offers as not enough. A week ago, Megan sent a final text. "If you don't pay the $5,000, I don't want you at my wedding." I was floored. I tried to respond calmly, saying, "I'm attending, I'm helping, but I cannot give you $5,000. If that means you don't want me there, that's your choice, but I cannot compromise my financial stability." She has not responded since. Our parents are now subtly pressuring me again, saying things like, "It would mean a lot to her if you helped," and "It's your family. Think about her feelings." My friends are split. Some say I should contribute to keep the peace, while others say I'm entirely justified in setting boundaries. I genuinely feel like I am being unfairly penalized for past generosity, and that Megan is manipulating our shared history to pressure me into funding something I cannot afford. At the same time, I worry about long-term consequences. I don't want this to permanently damage my relationship with my sister or create a rift with my parents. But I also cannot in good conscience commit to paying an amount that I simply don't have, especially when it's framed as a moral obligation rather than a request. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to fund my sister's wedding despite her claims that I owe her because of past help. AITA for confronting my brother over his parenting choices and potentially ruining our family dynamic. I, 32F, have always been close with my brother, Alex, 35M, and his wife, Clara, 34F. We grew up in a tight-knit family, and even after moving to different cities for work, we made a point to visit each other during holidays and birthdays. Alex and I share a lot in common, and I often feel protective of him, even though we both have our own lives. A few years ago, Alex and Clara had their first child, a daughter named Lily, who is now 5. From the beginning, I noticed certain patterns in their parenting that made me uncomfortable. Alex is generally hands-off, leaving most decisions to Clara, who is more controlling and rigid about routines. While I understand that every parent has their own approach, some of their methods felt extreme to me. For instance, they rarely allow Lily to play with friends outside of structured activities, and they enforce strict screen time rules that sometimes seem unnecessary. Initially, I kept my opinions to myself, thinking it wasn't my place to interfere. However, over time, situations began escalating, and I felt I could no longer stay silent. A few months ago, during a family visit, I noticed Lily was very withdrawn and hesitant to engage in play. She told me quietly that she wanted to invite some classmates over for a small play date, but Clara said no because it wasn't part of the schedule. I tried to gently suggest that maybe Lily could have a small gathering just for fun, but Clara dismissed me outright, saying I didn't understand parenting and that Lily's routine was in place for her benefit. A few weeks later, I was on a video call with Lily while Alex and Clara were at work. She told me she wanted a pet, a cat, and she had been asking her parents for months. I asked her why they hadn't gotten her one, and she seemed confused. Apparently, Clara had decided that pets were too much responsibility and refused. I didn't think it was my role to intervene directly, but I could tell Lily was disappointed, and it made me frustrated that her feelings were being overlooked so consistently. Things came to a head last weekend. Alex and Clara invited me over for dinner, and while I was there, Lily excitedly showed me a drawing she had made at school. It was a picture of a playground with kids playing, and she told me she wished she could play with friends like that. I asked Alex and Clara if Lily had opportunities for unstructured play, and they both responded defensively. Clara said, "We're raising her to be disciplined and focused. Not every child needs to be running around with other kids." Alex didn't say much, just nodded along. At that point, I lost my temper. I told them that while I respected their choices, I believed they were being overly strict and possibly stifling Lily's social and emotional growth. I said that their insistence on rigid routines, denying her the chance to make friends or have pets, and not considering her feelings could have lasting consequences. I also mentioned that their approach seemed more about control than about what Lily actually needed. Clara immediately became angry, saying I had no right to judge her parenting and that I was overstepping. Alex, surprisingly, agreed with me partially but tried to mediate, saying that while my points had merit, confronting them so openly in front of Lily wasn't appropriate. The situation escalated, and Clara ended up storming out of the room. Alex stayed and apologized for the argument, but also told me that they felt I had crossed a boundary. I argued that my intention wasn't to attack them, but to advocate for Lily. I also shared that I had noticed Lily seemed unhappy and that it hurt me to see her restricted and unhappy, even in small ways. Alex admitted that he sometimes feels stuck between supporting his wife and wanting to give Lily more freedom, but he felt powerless to challenge Clara's decisions openly. After that night, things have been tense. Alex has been distant, and Clara barely speaks to me during visits or calls. Other family members are asking me to apologize to Clara, but I feel conflicted. On one hand, I do feel that my approach might have been too direct and confrontational, and maybe should have brought up my concerns privately or more diplomatically. On the other hand, I truly believe that Lily's well-being is at stake, and I'm worried that if I stay silent, she will continue to be overly restricted socially and emotionally. I've considered that maybe my own experiences are influencing my perspective. I grew up in a home where independence and social exploration were encouraged, and I might be projecting my values onto Alex and Clara. But I also know that as a close family member who spends time with Lily, I have some insight into how she feels, and I can't ignore her expressions of unhappiness. To complicate matters further, Lily has started to confide in me more than her parents, and I can see she trusts me. I don't want to create a rift between her and her parents, but I also don't want to discourage her from expressing herself. I've thought about ways to gently influence them, like suggesting parenting books, offering ideas for playdates, or inviting them to activities without explicitly criticizing their choices. But I worry that if I step back completely, nothing will change. Now, I'm left wondering if I acted appropriately. Was I justified in speaking up about my concerns for Lily, or did I go too far by confronting Alex and Clara directly? I feel guilty about the tension this has caused, but I also feel strongly that advocating for a child's emotional well-being is important. I want to maintain a good relationship with my brother and niece, but I don't want to feel like I have to stay silent if I see behavior that could be harmful. So, AITA for confronting my brother and sister-in-law about their parenting choices, even though it caused a fight and may have strained our family relationships. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding over a disagreement about family roles. This is a long one, and I honestly still can't decide if I was in the wrong. I, 29F, have always been very close with my older sister, Emily, 33F, but recently our relationship has become strained. Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 34M, about a year ago, and from the start, there were some tensions between me and Mark. He's generally a nice guy, but he has a very controlling nature, especially when it comes to family events. I try to be patient, but things escalated recently during the wedding planning. Emily has always been the type to stick to traditional family roles, and she decided early on that she wanted our mother to help with planning, our father to handle finances, and me to do more of the supportive stuff. That's where things started to go sideways. I've always been independent and outspoken, and when Emily asked me to organize certain aspects of the wedding, I did my best, but I started noticing that Mark was dictating a lot of decisions under the guise of helping. He would override me on decor choices, seating arrangements, and even minor things like the type of napkins. At first, I thought maybe Emily was comfortable with it, but she seemed increasingly stressed and passive about saying anything to him. About 2 months before the wedding, Emily asked me to take charge of the bridesmaid dresses. I spent days researching options, trying to find something that suited the style she wanted, the colors she liked, and something within budget. I sent her a list of options with pros and cons, and Mark immediately dismissed them all, saying they weren't formal enough or didn't fit the aesthetic he envisioned. I tried to compromise and pick a few that balanced everyone's preferences, but he kept vetoing everything. Eventually, Emily said she didn't want to fight and just let him decide. That's when I realized that he was essentially taking over the wedding planning, and my role was being reduced to fetching things or nodding along. The breaking point came 2 weeks before the wedding. Emily wanted me to give a toast at the rehearsal dinner. I had been preparing for weeks, and I thought it was a chance to express my love and admiration for her. However, Mark told me that he didn't think my toast should overshadow his. I was stunned. I told him politely that the rehearsal dinner toast is traditionally given by close family members, and since I was her sister, I had every right to speak. He insisted that I shouldn't, and Emily, not wanting conflict, didn't intervene. At this point, I realized I had two options: either stay silent and let her special day be dictated by her fiancé, or speak up and risk angering both of them. I chose to speak up. During the rehearsal dinner, when it was my turn to speak, I went ahead and delivered my toast. I kept it heartfelt, but did mention how stressful planning had been and how much I tried to help Emily, while Mark often dismissed our family's input. I thought I was being honest but respectful. Immediately afterward, Mark became visibly upset and left the dinner without saying a word. Emily was in tears, and the atmosphere was tense for the rest of the night. The next morning, she called me, crying, saying she couldn't believe I had embarrassed her fiancé and that I had ruined the mood for the wedding. She begged me to apologize publicly and retract my statements, but I refused, saying I was only being honest and that I had a right to my perspective. Fast forward to the wedding day, and things were still icy. Mark barely spoke to me, and Emily avoided me as much as possible. During the ceremony, everything was fine on the surface, but at the reception, the tension boiled over. Mark confronted me in front of the family, accusing me of being selfish and trying to sabotage the wedding. I told him that I wasn't trying to ruin anything. I just wanted my sister's day to reflect her and not be completely controlled by someone else. This argument escalated quickly, and soon, other family members were involved. My parents sided with Emily mostly because she was married to Mark now, and some cousins started taking sides. It turned into a full-blown shouting match during dinner, and several guests were uncomfortable. After the wedding, Emily stopped talking to me for a few weeks. When we finally spoke, she said she appreciated my honesty, but felt humiliated and hurt by my actions. Mark has refused to acknowledge me beyond polite small talk, and the rest of the family seems split on the issue. Some say I should have stayed out of it, while others say Mark was overstepping and I did the right thing by standing up for my sister. I feel guilty because I love my sister and never intended to make her feel bad on her wedding day. At the same time, I don't think it was fair for Mark to control every aspect of the wedding and try to silence me, especially when I was trying to support Emily. The situation has left me questioning family dynamics, the boundaries of a partner in wedding planning, and whether being honest is worth the fallout. AITA for speaking up and delivering that toast, knowing it would upset my sister and her fiancé. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she humiliated me in front of our family. So this is going to be long, but I need to get it off my chest. I, 28F, had a younger sister, Emily, 25F, and we've always had a rocky relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child in our family, smart, beautiful, and charming. I was always more introverted, and honestly, I was fine with that most of the time. Our parents loved both of us, but it was clear that Emily got a lot more attention, especially in social situations. I know, this sounds petty, but it's just how it was. A few months ago, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 27M. From the start, she wanted a huge wedding. Very public, lots of family, friends, the works. I wasn't overly excited, but I agreed to help when she asked. At first, it was the usual bridesmaid duties, picking dresses, attending planning meetings, etc. Then things started to feel off. She began making increasingly ridiculous requests. I was expected to drop whatever I was doing to run errands for her, travel to different cities for dress fittings, and constantly text her for updates at all hours. I'm not a demanding person, but her constant reminders were exhausting. The breaking point came during the bridal shower. She had asked me to organize it, and I spent weeks making sure everything was perfect. I arranged decorations, ordered custom cakes, coordinated games, and made sure the guests were having a good time. I honestly thought it went well. That was until the moment she decided to thank everyone. She got on the small stage in our parents' living room and started giving a speech. I assumed she'd thank me along with everyone else. Instead, she singled me out, but not in a good way. She said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And of course, my sister, she tried to help, but honestly, she's always so disorganized. I don't know how she managed to do anything at all, but I guess she tried. Let's all give her a round of pity applause for her effort. Everyone clapped awkwardly. My face burned red. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or just leave. I was so humiliated that I had to leave the room. My parents were mortified, but Emily brushed it off, saying, "I was just joking. Don't be so sensitive." After that, things got tense. I tried to talk to her, to explain that her words were hurtful and unnecessary. She accused me of overreacting and said that I was jealous of her spotlight. I told her I wasn't jealous. I was embarrassed and hurt. She refused to apologize and instead doubled down, claiming that I needed to toughen up if I wanted to be part of her wedding. Fast forward to last week, she sent out the final wedding schedule, including a note that I had to be available for pre-wedding photos, hair and makeup trials, rehearsal dinners, and, of course, the big day itself. I responded that I would not attend the wedding, explaining that after being humiliated publicly, I could not in good conscience be part of such a stressful and toxic environment. She blew up. She sent me several long messages accusing me of being selfish, ruining family traditions, and destroying her special day. She even told me that our parents were disappointed in me, though when I called them, they admitted they were sad I wouldn't be attending, but didn't condone Emily's behavior. My friends and coworkers are split. Some say I'm justified. Emily humiliated me in front of our family, and it's reasonable to set boundaries. Others say I'm overreacting and that a wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and I should put my feelings aside for the sake of family harmony. I don't want to attend just to avoid being made fun of again or to save face for her. I also feel like if I go, it sets a precedent that her behavior is acceptable. Now, my parents are caught in the middle. They've told me they support me emotionally, but they're worried about family dynamics and the backlash from extended relatives. Emily has started sending passive-aggressive texts, like sending me pictures of wedding preparations or tagging me in posts saying, "Wish you were here." It's frustrating because I don't even want to see those things right now. I know some people might think I'm overreacting, but this isn't just about one incident. It's a culmination of years of subtle and not-so-subtle disrespect, her constant one-upping, and her inability to apologize or recognize her own actions. I have my own life, and I don't need to be dragged into a situation where I feel belittled and demeaned. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly humiliated me, even though it means disappointing my family and possibly causing more tension with Emily. I want to hear from people who can weigh in on whether I'm being too sensitive or if it's completely fair to stand my ground. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 26F. Growing up, we were inseparable, sharing clothes, secrets, and even our first heartbreaks. Our parents divorced when I was 15, and for a while, Emma and I became each other's support system. After high school, I moved to another city for work, and though we saw each other less often, we stayed close through texts, calls, and occasional visits. Emma has always been a bit impulsive when it comes to relationships. She tends to fall hard and fast, and most of her boyfriends have lasted a few months before fading away. That said, she met Ben, 27M, about a year ago, and I immediately had a bad feeling about him. I know it sounds judgmental, but from the first time I met him, I noticed several red flags. Ben was charming in a superficial way, always smiling, always telling stories about his adventures, and constantly trying to impress everyone. But beneath that, I noticed a pattern. He often talked over people, dismissed my opinions, and made subtle, cutting jokes at Emma's expense. Emma seemed to laugh them off, saying he was just teasing, but I could see her becoming more insecure over time. Over the months, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I told myself I might be overreacting and that maybe Emma knew him better than I did. But there were more incidents that kept me uneasy. He would make comments about Emma's appearance, sometimes under the guise of compliments, that I found inappropriate. He tried to isolate her from our friends during outings, insisting they all needed to get to know him better, or subtly criticizing their lifestyle choices. Despite all this, Emma became deeply involved with him. She moved in with him after 6 months, and soon after, he proposed. I tried to express my concerns in a gentle, non-confrontational way, focusing on behaviors rather than character. I told her I felt like Ben sometimes undermined her confidence and that I wanted her to feel empowered in the relationship. She brushed it off, saying I was being judgmental and that I didn't understand their dynamic. As the wedding plans progressed, things got more complicated. Emma wanted a small ceremony, just family and a few friends, but Ben pushed for a large, extravagant event. I felt that he was making the day about himself, and it made me increasingly anxious about attending. I voiced my concerns to Emma one last time, explaining that I didn't feel comfortable celebrating with him given how I perceived his treatment of her. Emma got very defensive, accusing me of being selfish and trying to control her choices. The breaking point came when I attended a pre-wedding gathering at her fiancé's family home. Ben was charming to everyone except me. During dinner, he made several comments about my career and my lifestyle that were condescending, and when I tried to engage in light conversation, he dismissed my opinions entirely. I watched Emma laugh along with him. It hit me that she wasn't seeing how manipulative he could be. I quietly left the gathering, telling her I needed to go home. A week later, Emma called me in tears, asking why I hadn't RSVP'd to the wedding. I told her the truth. I didn't feel comfortable attending because of Ben. She accused me of being dramatic, of trying to ruin her special day, and of not loving her enough to put aside my feelings. I tried to explain that my concern was her well-being, not the wedding itself. I offered to spend time with her before the wedding or celebrate afterward, but she said it wasn't the same. Since then, our family has been divided. My parents are hurt that I won't attend, but they also understand my perspective. Some of my friends think I'm overreacting and that I should just go for the sake of family harmony. Emma hasn't spoken to me in a few weeks, and I get the occasional passive-aggressive message from Ben on social media. I'm torn. On one hand, I love my sister and want to support her. On the other, I feel like attending the wedding would be endorsing a relationship I genuinely believe is unhealthy for her. I've considered compromising, like attending only part of the ceremony or keeping a low profile, but I don't know if that would be enough to reconcile with my conscience. I've also thought about writing her a letter to explain my stance fully, but I'm afraid it will only make things worse. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I don't trust her fiancé and I think he's bad for her. I know it will hurt her and others who love her, but I feel like my silence would be complicity. I want to support her, but I also want to maintain my boundaries and protect myself from what I see as emotional harm to her. Has anyone else faced a situation where attending a family event felt morally wrong due to a relationship dynamic? I'm open to advice on navigating this delicate situation while staying true to my feelings. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, we were inseparable, sharing clothes, secrets, and the occasional childhood mischief that we somehow never got caught for. As adults, we remained close, even when life got busy with work and relationships. However, things started to change when Emily began dating her now fiancé, Mark, 27M. Mark came from a different social circle than Emily. He is very career-driven and ambitious, which is admirable in many ways. But he also has a habit of being dismissive of people he considers less driven or less intelligent. Early on, I noticed subtle things. The way he would correct my sister mid-sentence, the sarcastic comments he would throw at our friends, and a general air of superiority that made everyone around him uncomfortable. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just awkward or trying to impress Emily. However, as the relationship progressed, his behavior became harder to ignore. During family gatherings, he often made condescending jokes at my expense. For example, when I mentioned a new project at work, he said, "Oh, that sounds cute. Must be nice to have such simple goals." My parents laughed it off, saying he was just teasing, but it didn't feel like teasing to me. It felt like belittling. The breaking point came when Emily announced their engagement. We were all excited, but I noticed Mark immediately started dictating how things should be done. He insisted on controlling the guest list, the seating arrangements, the flowers, and even the music. He criticized my parents' choice of caterers, told my mother she was overreacting when she expressed concerns about the budget and lectured Emily about what he deemed proper etiquette for a wedding. I tried to remain supportive. I told Emily privately that I felt uncomfortable with the way Mark was treating people, including my parents and me. She defended him, saying that he was just stressed about the wedding and that he loved us all and didn't mean anything by it. I tried to let it go, thinking maybe I was overreacting. Then came the bridal shower. I spent weeks planning and helping out because I genuinely wanted it to be a special day for Emily. But Mark showed up and immediately began criticizing everything. The decorations were too childish, the food not sophisticated enough, and the games a waste of time. He even interrupted the gift opening to lecture Emily on why certain gifts were impractical. Many guests were visibly uncomfortable, and some quietly left early. Emily tried to brush it off, but I could see the disappointment on her face. After that event, I spoke with Emily privately and told her I couldn't continue supporting a wedding where Mark was treating our family and friends so poorly. I explained that I felt disrespected and that his behavior was toxic, and that I couldn't in good conscience celebrate someone who consistently undermined and insulted people. Emily became very defensive and accused me of trying to control her wedding and ruin her happiness. She said, "You're exaggerating. Mark loves you. He's just joking around." I countered that no amount of joking should make people feel humiliated or belittled, but she refused to see my perspective. The situation escalated when Mark sent me a message directly, saying I was being dramatic and unreasonable, and that if I couldn't support Emily's big day, I should stay out of it. This only confirmed to me that my instincts about his character were correct. I told Emily I would not be attending the wedding if Mark was going to be there, and I meant it. Since then, Emily has cut off most of our communication. My parents are upset, saying that I should forgive and forget because it's her wedding and I should be there to support her. Friends have been divided. Some say I'm standing up for myself and setting boundaries, while others say I'm being petty and letting one person's behavior ruin a family. Celebration. I still love my sister and hope that she can eventually see Mark's behavior for what it is. But I also feel that attending the wedding would compromise my values and self-respect. I've offered to celebrate her in other ways, like a pre-wedding dinner with close family and a post-wedding gathering where Mark isn't involved, but Emily refuses, saying that if you're not there for the wedding, nothing else matters. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's consistently disrespectful and toxic behavior, even though it's causing a rift in our family. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after years of unresolved family issues. I, 29F, have had a complicated relationship with my family, particularly with my younger brother, Kyle, 26M. Growing up, Kyle and I were close for the first few years, but as we got older, our personalities clashed severely. I became more introverted and focused on academics, while Kyle was more social and adventurous. Our parents always encouraged us to support each other, but they also tended to play favorites, often excusing Kyle's behavior because he was young and energetic. As a teenager, Kyle became increasingly reckless. He frequently got into trouble at school, experimented with drugs, and even had several run-ins with the law. Our parents mostly brushed these off, while I had to constantly maintain high grades and behave responsibly to avoid criticism. I tried talking to them, but it always fell on deaf ears, and I eventually stopped trying. The tension between me and Kyle grew, as I felt he was allowed to act irresponsibly without consequences while I had to constantly prove myself. When I turned 18 and moved out for college, the distance gave me some relief. I tried to maintain a polite relationship with Kyle, but it was strained. He started a pattern of calling me only when he needed something, like advice on jobs, financial help, or just someone to vent to. I always tried to help in small ways, but started noticing that our interactions were one-sided. Over the last few years, my parents' behavior has also caused problems. They have a tendency to ignore my needs while prioritizing Kyle's. For example, When I had to undergo surgery last year, they barely checked in, but when Kyle was hospitalized after a minor accident, the entire family flew in and made a huge deal about it. I've tried expressing my feelings, but it usually ends with them saying I'm overreacting or too sensitive. About a year ago, Kyle got engaged to his long-term girlfriend, Amanda, 25F. From the start, I had mixed feelings about Amanda. I tried to be polite, but she seemed to enjoy the drama that surrounded Kyle's family. She often complained about me to him, painting me as the distant, judgmental sister, even though I had barely interacted with her before they got engaged. I tried to give her a chance, but she didn't make an effort to understand me either. The engagement party was the first real test. I was invited, but as soon as I arrived, I noticed Amanda subtly excluding me from conversations and rolling her eyes when I spoke. Kyle didn't notice or ignored it, and our parents were too busy fawning over the couple to intervene. I felt invisible and deeply uncomfortable, but I stayed because I didn't want to escalate things. During the party, there was a heated moment when Amanda made a joke about me being the sibling who never visits, even though I've been living in a different state for school and work. Kyle laughed it off, and no one apologized. I left the party early, feeling hurt and humiliated. After that, I tried to keep my distance. I reached out to Kyle a few times over the year, mainly to offer congratulations or ask how he was doing. He would respond minimally, usually redirecting the conversation back to himself or Amanda. It became clear that they were not interested in a genuine relationship with me. They were more focused on maintaining the image of a happy, perfect couple and family. 6 months ago, I received the wedding invitation. When I saw it, I felt a mix of emotions: sadness, frustration, and anger. I considered attending because I still care about my brother, but the thought of being in an environment where I felt belittled and ignored made me anxious. I also feared that attending would validate their treatment of me and Amanda's subtle hostility. I decided to write Kyle a message explaining my feelings. I told him that while I cared about him, I could not attend the wedding because of years of unresolved family issues, feeling ignored, and the way Amanda had treated me. I emphasized that this was not meant to punish him, but I needed to prioritize my mental health and boundaries. I also offered to celebrate his marriage in a smaller, private setting at a later date, away from the drama. The response I got was shocking. Kyle accused me of being selfish and dramatic, claiming that I was making this about myself instead of supporting him on the happiest day of his life. He also told me that Amanda would never forgive me for missing the wedding and implied that our parents were disappointed in me. I tried to explain that it wasn't about Amanda personally, but the pattern of behavior over the years that made me feel unwelcome and unsupported. He refused to understand, and our parents haven't reached out since. Since then, the family dynamic has completely deteriorated. Kyle and Amanda have blocked me on social media, and my parents barely answer my calls. I feel a mix of relief and guilt. Relief because I don't have to endure a stressful event that would have been emotionally damaging, and guilt because I love my brother and know that missing his wedding will hurt him deeply. I have no intention of attending, but I'm worried that this decision may permanently damage our relationship. I've tried talking to friends about this, and opinions are split. Some say I'm justified for protecting my mental health and setting boundaries. Others say I should put aside my grievances for one day to support my brother. I'm torn because part of me feels I'm doing the right thing, but another part worries that I'm overreacting and making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after years of unresolved family issues and feeling mistreated by my family and his fiancée. AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after years of tension. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding to my fiancé, Mark, 30M, for the past year. We've been together for 6 years, and after a long engagement filled with ups and downs, we finally set a date for the fall. From the start, I knew that planning a wedding would be complicated, but I didn't expect family drama to dominate my thoughts so much. My sister, Jenna, 32F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was very controlling and critical of everything I did. She would mock my interests, criticize my friends, and constantly compare me to herself. My parents were often dismissive of the impact of her behavior, saying things like she's just protective or she doesn't mean it like that. I try to brush it off as sibling rivalry, but it's always left a lasting impact on my self-esteem. As I got older, the pattern continued. She would offer unsolicited advice, often condescendingly, and belittle my decisions. Things escalated when I got engaged. Jenna immediately started making comments about my choice in partner, claiming Mark wasn't good enough for our family and that I was settling. She even tried to convince my parents to discourage me from marrying him. I tried to set boundaries, telling her that I loved Mark and that our choices were not up for debate. She laughed it off, saying I was too sensitive and that I should learn to take criticism. The turning point came during the wedding planning. I wanted a medium-sized wedding, around 120 guests, and had to make difficult choices about the guest list due to budget constraints. When I told Jenna that my fiancé and I were limiting the guest list, she became extremely hostile. She accused me of trying to erase her from my life and humiliating her in front of the family. She demanded a spot on the guest list for herself and her boyfriend, and when I explained that it wasn't feasible given our budget, she threw a full-blown tantrum. She called my parents, telling them I was being unreasonable and cruel. My parents tried to mediate, but instead of calming things down, they seemed to side with her, suggesting I could make some exceptions. I tried reasoning with Jenna, but she refused to accept any explanation. A few months ago, she escalated things even further. She sent a long, aggressive text about how I was destroying our family bond and accused me of favoritism because my parents and I have always had a closer relationship. The text ended with her saying she wouldn't attend the wedding at all if she wasn't invited under the terms she wanted. I responded politely, reaffirming that our wedding plans were final and that I was sorry she felt hurt, but I couldn't change our arrangements. She then posted a cryptic status on social media about family betrayal and manipulation, tagging both my parents and mutual friends. This caused a huge stir in our extended family and left me feeling humiliated and stressed. Since then, I made the decision not to invite her. I've explained my reasoning to my parents multiple times, telling them that her behavior is toxic and that a wedding is not the place to tolerate emotional manipulation. My parents are upset, saying that I should try harder to compromise and that I'm being harsh on my sister. They argue that family events are supposed to be inclusive and that I should at least invite her to maintain appearances. My friends, on the other hand, completely support me. They've witnessed Jenna's behavior firsthand and agree that I would be setting myself up for drama if I allowed her to come. Recently, Jenna found out about my decision and sent me an email that felt more like an attack than a message. She wrote that I am selfish, petty, and incapable of maintaining family relationships, and that she hopes I regret this choice for the rest of my life. My parents have Reddit and now pressure me to reconsider for the sake of family unity. I feel trapped because I want my wedding day to be happy and peaceful, not overshadowed by her constant criticism and drama. Mark has been incredibly supportive, agreeing that my sister's behavior is unacceptable and that protecting our wedding environment is more important than appeasing her. I understand that not inviting a close family member to a wedding is a big deal, but I feel that after years of emotional abuse and boundary violations, I am justified in prioritizing my mental health and the quality of my special day. I've tried repeatedly to communicate with Jenna, but she consistently refuses to acknowledge her own role in the conflict and instead frames herself as the victim. I worry that if I invite her, she will escalate things further, possibly even disrupting the ceremony or causing tension with other guests. I've also considered that this decision may have long-term repercussions on our family relationships, but I'm not sure there's a way to maintain peace if she is present. I've shared my decision with close family and friends who understand the situation. Most of them agree that my choice is reasonable and that boundaries are important, especially when dealing with someone who has shown a pattern of manipulation and hostility. My parents, however, are still unhappy, saying that weddings are once-in-a-lifetime events and that it's not fair to exclude family members. I have tried explaining that while I value family, I cannot put myself through emotional turmoil just to maintain appearances for one day. I feel torn because I do want a happy family dynamic, but I also feel exhausted from years of trying to satisfy Jenna's demands and enduring her attacks on my choices. I don't want to escalate the situation further, but at the same time, I cannot compromise my own boundary for the sake of someone who has consistently disrespected them. I've considered the possibility of inviting her under strict conditions, such as attending without her boyfriend or agreeing to behave respectfully, but I worry that even with rules, she may find a way to cause chaos. Mark and I have discussed these scenarios in detail, and we both agree that the safest approach is simply to not invite her at all. We're also preparing statements for other family members who might question our decision, emphasizing that this is about maintaining a positive, peaceful wedding day. Despite my reasoning, I can't shake the fear that I'm being unfair or too harsh. I know that weddings are meant to bring people together, but I also know that bringing someone who has historically been disruptive is likely to create more harm than good. I am constantly questioning myself, wondering if I could have handled things differently, or if there's a way to salvage the situation without compromising my mental health. I want my family to understand that my decision is not about revenge or spite. It's about protecting myself and the people I love on a day that is supposed to celebrate happiness and love. So, AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after years of tension and emotional abuse. I feel like I'm protecting my boundaries and mental health, but my parents believe I'm being unfair and that I should compromise for the sake of family unity. I'm looking for an honest assessment. Am I being unreasonable, or is it justified to exclude her to protect the atmosphere of my wedding? AITA for confronting my sister over her parenting choices and possibly overstepping boundaries. This has been weighing heavily on me, and I need to get some perspective. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, and I have always been very involved in her life, partly because we were raised very close together and partly because I naturally gravitate toward taking care of people. Emily has a 6-year-old daughter, Mia, and while I adore her niece, our relationship over the past few years has become increasingly tense due to what I perceive as questionable parenting decisions on Emily's part. It all started when Mia was around 3. Emily had decided to enroll her in a strict Montessori school that emphasized independence and responsibility from a very young age. I supported the idea in principle, but I noticed a pattern that concerned me. Emily often left Mia to manage tasks well beyond her developmental stage, and any sign of frustration or failure was met with scolding rather than guidance. I tried to offer advice gently, suggesting that Mia might need more support and patience rather than rigid expectations. But Emily brushed me off, saying I was overreacting and didn't understand modern parenting. Things escalated last year when Mia started showing signs of anxiety and extreme perfectionism. She would cry over minor mistakes, refuse to attend school on certain days, and constantly seek validation. I sat down with Emily and explained my concerns in detail, including research about child development and how pressure at a young age can manifest as long-term anxiety issues. Emily became defensive and accused me of judging her as a mother. She insisted that Mia's reactions were normal and that I was making a big deal out of nothing. I tried to stay calm, focusing on Mia's well-being rather than criticizing Emily, but I left that conversation feeling unheard and frustrated. The breaking point came a few months ago during a family dinner. Emily was giving Mia instructions about preparing her own meal, which included tasks like cutting vegetables and making a salad entirely on her own. Mia started struggling and spilled some juice, causing Emily to scold her in front of everyone. I could see the panic on Mia's face, and I quietly told Emily that it might be better to guide her rather than leave her to figure it all out while correcting mistakes publicly. Emily snapped at me, saying I had no right to interfere and that I was undermining her authority as a parent. The argument escalated, and I ended up leaving the dinner in frustration, feeling both angry and guilty. After that incident, I tried to maintain a distance, but I still kept an eye on Mia. I noticed she seemed increasingly withdrawn and anxious, especially around her mother. I reached out to Emily privately, asking if we could have an honest conversation about Mia's emotional health. I explained that I wasn't trying to control her parenting, but that I had observed patterns that could harm Mia long term. I even offered to take Mia for occasional outings to give her a break, which Emily initially refused, saying it wasn't necessary and that I was overstepping. A few weeks ago, Mia confided in me that she was scared of making mistakes because her mom would get upset. Hearing that broke my heart. I knew I couldn't just stay silent anymore, so I asked Emily if I could spend a weekend with Mia to do fun, low-pressure activities, reading, cooking simple meals, and just playing without expectations. Emily reluctantly agreed, saying, "Fine, but only this once." During that weekend, Mia was visibly happier, laughing more, and showing curiosity without fear of doing something wrong. I could see the contrast so clearly that I felt it confirm my concerns. After that weekend, I tried to discuss with Emily how I thought we could work together to help Mia feel less stressed. I suggested creating a system of support and encouragement rather than perfectionist expectations, emphasizing that I was on her side and wanted to help. Emily, however, exploded. She accused me of turning Mia against her, claimed I was trying to make her look like a bad mother to the family, and said I had no right to interfere in her parenting. She blocked me on social media and stopped responding to texts. Our family has been awkwardly divided ever since, with other relatives unsure how to intervene. Here's the part I'm struggling with. I genuinely believe I'm acting in Mia's best interest, but I realize I may have crossed a boundary with Emily. I did confront her repeatedly, and I may have done it in ways that felt critical rather than collaborative. My intention was never to make Emily feel judged or controlled. I was hoping to protect Mia, but I understand how it could come across as overstepping. At the same time, I feel a moral obligation to intervene when a child's emotional health is at risk. Our other relatives have given me mixed feedback. Some say Emily is being defensive and stubborn and that I'm in the right for putting Mia first. Others argue that no matter how concerned I am, it's Emily's responsibility as a parent, and I should have backed off and let her handle it, even if I disagreed. I'm torn because I do want to maintain a healthy relationship with my sister, but I can't ignore Mia's needs. Since the fallout, I've tried to apologize for the way I approached Emily, emphasizing that my actions came from love and concern rather than judgment. I've suggested family therapy or parenting workshops as a neutral way to address the issues, but Emily has not responded. I feel stuck between wanting to support Mia and wanting to repair my relationship with my sister, and I worry that any further attempts will just make Emily feel more attacked. So, AITA for confronting my sister repeatedly about her parenting, even though my intention was to protect my niece, or should I have respected her boundaries and stayed out of it, despite seeing her child struggle emotionally? I'm trying to find the line between caring and overstepping, and right now I feel like I might have crossed it. I just want what's best for Mia without destroying my relationship with Emily. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé plan our family vacation. I, 32F, have always been the one who organizes our family trips. I take pride in it because I love planning, coordinating schedules, and finding fun activities that everyone can enjoy. I usually start planning months in advance and make sure to accommodate everyone's needs and preferences. My sister, Emma, 29F, has never been great at planning, so I naturally take the lead. This year, Emma got engaged to a man named Daniel, 31M. Daniel is a nice guy most of the time, but he has this habit of being very controlling when it comes to planning and organizing things. When Emma and Daniel got engaged, they immediately started hinting that they wanted to be more involved in family events, including vacations. I wasn't opposed to some input, but I didn't expect them to take over completely. Our family decided to go on a week-long vacation to the mountains in the summer. I started planning everything in early March. As usual, booking a cabin, arranging activities like hiking, kayaking, and a small guided tour, and making a meal schedule. I made sure to ask everyone for input on what they wanted to do, including Emma and Daniel. Emma was happy with my suggestions, but Daniel started suggesting major changes. He wanted us to go to an entirely different location, claiming he knew a better, more exciting spot that none of us had been to. I explained that I had already booked everything months in advance, and that it wouldn't be practical to change plans at this point. Daniel didn't take no for an answer. He began sending me articles and travel blogs about his better spot, and even tried to pressure me by saying, if you really cared about family, You do something everyone wants. I felt like he was attacking my competence as a sister and organizer. A few weeks later, Daniel decided to show up uninvited at my house to review the itinerary. He went through every detail I had planned and suggested changes for meals, activities, and even the cabin layout. I calmly told him that the plans were final and that I appreciated his enthusiasm, but the family had already agreed to the arrangements. He responded with a sarcastic, "Wow, you really like having total control, don't you?" I decided to involve my parents, hoping they would mediate. My mom suggested maybe we could compromise and let Daniel handle a day or two of activities. I agreed to let him plan one afternoon hike and dinner at a restaurant of his choice. When he found out it was only one day, he threw a minor tantrum, complaining that one day wasn't enough to showcase his expertise. My family, annoyed but not wanting conflict, tried to brush it off. The tension continued to escalate over the next month. Daniel would constantly text me asking why I hadn't included his suggestions, even though I had repeatedly explained that plans were set. He started complaining to Emma about me not being flexible and making her feel stuck in the middle. Emma, who usually supports me, started getting defensive and would say things like, "I think you're overreacting. Maybe we should just listen to him a bit more." I felt like my sister was siding with her fiancé over years of family tradition and my effort. 2 weeks before the trip, Daniel made an ultimatum. Either I let him take over the entire itinerary, or he and Emma wouldn't go. I was furious. I felt manipulated and disrespected, and I told him in no uncertain terms that if he wanted to control our family vacation, he could stay home. I also told Emma that I couldn't allow someone to take over plans that the whole family had agreed upon, and that I felt Daniel was being disrespectful. Emma was upset and accused me of being unreasonable and controlling. She said, "This is supposed to be about family bonding, but you're making it about yourself." I tried to explain that the bonding was exactly why I was trying to keep things organized and stress-free. I also reminded her that Daniel had barely participated in family trips before and was suddenly trying to rewrite the entire schedule. Our parents ended up intervening and tried to mediate. They suggested we do a vote. Either we stick to my plan or change it to Daniel's proposed location. My plan won, as the rest of the family preferred it and had already made arrangements. Emma reluctantly agreed, but was clearly frustrated. Daniel, on the other hand, refused to speak to me for the rest of the month leading up to the trip. When we finally went on the vacation, things were awkward at first. Daniel tried to subtly criticize my plans during the first day, but I ignored him. By the second day, he stopped making comments, possibly realizing that everything was working smoothly without his input. Surprisingly, he even admitted that he enjoyed the trip by the end. However, Emma was still upset and barely spoke to me except to apologize to our parents for the drama. After we returned, Daniel and Emma stayed with our parents for a week, and I noticed that Emma had become more distant with me. She's been cordial but clearly upset, and Daniel has made a few passive-aggressive remarks about how controlling I was. Our parents have told me they think I did the right thing because I'd already done all the work and Daniel was being unreasonable. I agree, but I can't shake the guilt of having possibly alienated my sister. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take over the family vacation plans? I feel like I was protecting years of tradition and my own work, but I also can't help feeling like I may have been too rigid, even though Daniel's behavior felt manipulative. I've tried to be patient, but his constant pressure made me feel backed into a corner. The vacation itself went well, everyone had fun, and the activities went smoothly, but the aftermath has left a tension in my family that I haven't experienced before. I'm worried that this might affect future family gatherings, and I feel stuck between protecting my planning role and maintaining my relationship with my sister. I'm posting here because I genuinely want perspective. Did I overreact? Was I too controlling, or was Daniel genuinely out of line? Could I have handled this better without alienating my sister? AITA for refusing to give my sister my late husband's wedding ring after she got engaged. I, 34F, lost my husband Daniel 3 years ago in a car accident. We had been married for 6 years and together for almost a decade. His death was sudden and devastating, and it took me a long time to even function normally again. We didn't have children, so most of what I have left of him are memories, photos, and a few deeply personal items. One of those items is his wedding ring. After he passed, I couldn't bring myself to store it away. I wear it on a chain around my neck almost every day. It makes me feel grounded, like I'm still carrying a part of him with me. I don't date, and I haven't seriously considered remarriage. Not because I think it's wrong, but because I'm just not there emotionally. The ring isn't about clinging to the past in an unhealthy way. It's about honoring the life we built together. My younger sister, Ava, 29F, recently got engaged to her boyfriend of 2 years. Everyone is thrilled for her. I genuinely am too. I helped her pick out venues and talked through dress ideas. About a month ago, she came over to my place for dinner and told me she wanted to ask something really special. She said she had been thinking about incorporating family meaning into her wedding and thought it would be beautiful if her fiancé could use Daniel's ring as his wedding band. She said it would symbolize love that endures beyond death and would make her feel like Daniel was somehow part of her big day. I honestly thought she was joking at first. When I realized she wasn't, I told her gently but firmly that I wasn't comfortable with that. I said Daniel's ring is one of the few things I have left of him and that it's deeply personal to me. I explained that I wear it daily and that it brings me comfort. She looked disappointed but didn't argue much that night. I thought that was the end of it. A few days later, my mom called me. She said Ava had been crying and felt hurt that I wouldn't share something so meaningful. My mom said that Daniel was part of our whole family, not just mine, and that letting the ring be used in Ava's marriage would keep his memory alive in a positive way instead of tied to grief. That really upset me. Daniel was part of the family, yes, but he was my husband. That ring was a symbol of our vows. It feels wrong to imagine another man wearing it while making promises to my sister. It doesn't feel like honoring him. It feels like erasing the context of what that ring actually meant. I told my mom no. I said I wasn't being selfish. I was protecting something sacred to me. She said I was holding on too tightly and that Daniel wouldn't have wanted his ring sitting on a chain forever. That comment hurt more than I expected. She has no idea what Daniel would have wanted in this situation. Now, Ava isn't really speaking to me. She's civil in family group chats, but distant. My aunt even sent me a message saying I should consider how much it would mean to Ava and that I could let go as a sign of growth. The thing is, I have let go in many ways. I went to therapy. I rebuilt my life. I returned to work. I socialize again. But letting go doesn't mean giving away the last physical symbol of my marriage. Part of me wonders if I'm being overly possessive. It's just a ring, technically, metal and stone. I could keep it in a box and buy myself a replica if I really needed something tangible. But when I even imagine handing it over, my chest tightens. It feels like giving away a piece of my history. Ava recently tried one more time. She came by and said she wasn't trying to take Daniel from me. She said she thought it would be a way for our family to turn something tragic into something joyful. She also mentioned that buying a high-quality band like Daniel's would be expensive, and this would help them financially. That part made it feel less sentimental and more practical, which bothered me. I told her I love her, but my answer is still no. I offered to contribute money toward a ring for her fiancé if cost is the issue. She refused and said that wasn't the point, though she didn't deny that money was tight. Now some family members think I'm stuck in the past and using the ring as an emotional crutch. Others privately told me they think Ava crossed a line by even asking. I keep replaying it in my head. If Daniel were here, would he tell me to give it away? He was generous and kind, but he also understood how sentimental I am. He knew how much that ring symbolized to me. It wasn't just jewelry. It was the physical representation of promises we made in front of everyone we loved. I don't want to damage my relationship with my sister. We've always been close, but I also don't think I should have to sacrifice something so personal to prove that I'm supportive of her marriage. So AITA for refusing to give my sister my late husband's wedding ring, even if it would make her happy and possibly help her financially. AITA for refusing to give my sister my extra house key after she told the family I basically owe her a place to stay whenever she wants. I'm 32F and my sister Lena is 29F. Growing up, Lena was the golden child. She's charismatic, funny, and always has some kind of crisis that somehow becomes everyone else's problem. I was the responsible one. I studied, worked part-time, saved money, and moved out as soon as I could. About 3 years ago, after a decade of working and living with roommates, I finally bought a small 2-bedroom townhouse. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked overtime, skipped vacations, and put most of my 20s into being able to afford it. The second bedroom is my office and guest room. I work remotely and need a quiet space. Lena, on the other hand, has moved 6 times in the past 4 years. She's left apartments because of toxic vibes, had fallouts with roommates, and most recently broke up with her boyfriend, who she was living with. 2 months ago, she called me crying because she had nowhere to go. I let her stay with me for what we agreed would be 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks were exhausting. She left dishes everywhere, took my car without asking once, and had loud FaceTime calls at midnight, even though she knew I had early meetings. When I tried to set boundaries, she accused me of acting like her mom. On day 12, I reminded her she needed to figure out her next step. She said she was looking, but I could tell she assumed she could just stay. On day 15, I sat her down and told her she needed to move out by the end of the week. She got quiet, packed over the next few days, and moved in with a friend. I thought that was the end of it. Last week, we were at our parents' house for dinner. Out of nowhere, Lena joked about how she should just get a permanent key to my place since it's basically her backup home. I laughed awkwardly and said that wasn't happening. She looked surprised and asked why not. I said because it's my home, and I don't give out spare keys casually. She rolled her eyes and said, "You literally have a whole extra room you barely use." I reminded her it's my office. She said I work from a laptop and could work anywhere. I told her that wasn't the point. My mom chimed in and said it would be nice for Lena to have some stability and that I'm her sister. My dad added that families should be able to rely on each other. I said letting her stay temporarily was me being supportive. Giving her a key so she can come and go whenever she wants is different. Lena then said, in front of everyone, "I just think it's selfish that you'd rather let the room sit empty than let your own sister feel like she has a safe place." That stung. The room isn't empty. Even if it were, I don't think owning something means you owe it to someone else. Things escalated when she admitted she'd already told a few friends that she could crash at my place anytime. I was stunned. I asked if she was serious. She shrugged and said she assumed I wouldn't mind because I never used the space. I told her very clearly that she was not to tell anyone that, and that she absolutely was not getting a key. She got teary and said I was embarrassing her and making her look unstable. I said she shouldn't promise people access to a house that isn't hers. My mom told me I was being harsh and that Lena's been going through a hard time. I said I understand that, but I'm not responsible for solving it. Since that dinner, I've gotten multiple texts from my mom saying I'm being cold and that I've always been too rigid. Lena texted me saying she can't believe I'd choose a room over her and that she would never treat me like this. She also said I don't understand what it's like to feel like you have no safety net. I reminded her that I built mine from scratch. The part that makes me second-guess myself is this. I can technically afford to help her more. I'm not struggling financially. I don't have kids. It wouldn't bankrupt me to let her stay occasionally. But when she stayed before, she disrespected my space and my time. I felt anxious in my own home. I started dreading coming out of my office because I knew she'd either want to vent for hours or ask for something. I also worry about the precedent. If she has a key, what's stopping her from showing up unannounced? Bringing friends? Staying for weeks and arguing when I ask her to leave? Legally, in my state, I know tenant rights can get complicated if someone establishes residency. I work too hard for this place to feel unsafe in it. My parents think I'm overthinking and that Lena just wants reassurance. But to me, a house key is access, not reassurance. It means trust that someone will respect your boundaries. She hasn't shown me that. At the same time, I feel guilty. She's my sister. We had good times growing up. When she's not in crisis mode, she's fun and generous. Part of me wonders if I'm holding her past behavior against her and not giving her a chance to do better. But another part of me feels like this isn't about a key at all. It's about control. She doesn't like that I said no. She's used to people bending for her. I'm the first person in our family to draw a hard line, and now I'm the villain. So now I'm stuck. My parents are disappointed. Lena is hurt and telling relatives I've abandoned her. I'm sitting in my quiet townhouse, feeling both relieved and like the worst sister ever. AITA for refusing to give her a key and standing firm that my house is not her backup plan. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support boyfriend to my wedding after what he did at my engagement party. I 29F am getting married this summer to my fiancé 31M. We have been together for 5 years, and planning this wedding has honestly been one of the happiest times of my life. It has also apparently turned into a battleground because of my younger sister 26F and her boyfriend 28M. For context, my sister has a history of dating men who become her entire personality. When she dated a gym bro, she lectured everyone about macros. When she dated a musician, she insisted we all attend his open mics. Now she is dating this guy, Ryan, who describes himself as brutally honest, but is mostly just rude. From the moment she brought him around, he made comments that rubbed everyone the wrong way. He told my fiancé that his job sounded fake because he works remotely in tech. He asked my mom if she had always been this high-strung or if it was a new thing. He told me my house had strong rental energy, even though we own it. My sister laughs at all of this and says that's just his sense of humor and that we are too sensitive. The breaking point happened at our engagement party last fall. My parents hosted it in their backyard. It was a lovely evening, close friends and family, catered food, speeches, the whole thing. My fiancé's best friend gave a heartfelt toast about how we met and how he had never seen my fiancé so sure about anything. People were tearing up. Then Ryan asked if he could say a few words. No one had planned for that, but my sister was already clapping and saying, "Yes, let him." So my dad handed him the microphone. Ryan proceeded to give what he called a reality check. He said marriage was statistically a bad bet, that he hoped we had a prenup because love fades but alimony is forever, and that he was glad at least one couple there was doing it right by not rushing into something outdated. He gestured to himself and my sister. People were stunned. My fiancé's grandmother looked like she might cry. I just stood there frozen. My fiancé eventually took the microphone back and said something polite about appreciating all perspectives, but it was humiliating. Later that night, I confronted my sister. She said I was overreacting and that Ryan was just being funny and provocative. She said if my relationship was solid, a few jokes should not shake it. After that, I told her clearly that Ryan would not be invited to the wedding. I said I wanted a day surrounded by people who support our marriage, not someone who thinks it is a punchline. She accused me of trying to control her and isolate her from her partner. I told her she was still invited, of course, but he was not. For months, this has been simmering. She keeps bringing it up at family dinners. My parents initially said it was my wedding and my choice, but they also hate conflict and have started suggesting I be the bigger person. My mom said excluding him will cause permanent damage to my relationship with my sister. Last week, it escalated. My sister came over unannounced and told me that Ryan is her emotional support person. She said he has anxiety in social situations, and that is why he makes jokes, and that she also has anxiety and cannot attend big events without him. She said if he is not invited, she will not come either. She also said that by excluding him, I am disrespecting her relationship the same way I claim he disrespected mine. I asked her how exactly his anxiety forced him to grab a microphone and roast our engagement. She said I was being dismissive of mental health. She told me that weddings are about family and that I am choosing a party over my own sister. The thing is, I love my sister. We grew up sharing a room, whispering about our crushes, covering for each other when we snuck out. I always imagined her standing next to me at my wedding. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid, but every time I picture walking down the aisle and seeing Ryan, smirking in the front row, I feel sick. My fiancé is firmly on my side. He said he will support whatever I decide, but he does not want someone at our wedding who openly disrespects our commitment. Some of my friends agree and say this is a natural consequence of his behavior. A few relatives have messaged me privately saying they hope I reconsider because family is forever. My sister has now told extended family that I banned her boyfriend for having opinions. She conveniently leaves out the part where he hijacked our engagement party. An aunt called me dramatic. My cousin said I should just assign him a seat in the back and ignore him. But I keep thinking about the tone he set at the engagement party. That was supposed to be a joyful night, and he managed to insert cynicism and tension into it. What if he does something similar at the wedding? Even if he does not give a speech, what if he whispers commentary during the ceremony or makes a scene at the reception? I do not want to spend my wedding day on edge. At the same time, the idea of my sister not being there breaks my heart. She says I am making her choose between her boyfriend and her family. I feel like she is making that choice herself by insisting he be included after he showed no respect. I offered compromise. I said if Ryan reaches out and gives a genuine apology to both me and my fiancée, acknowledging that what he said was inappropriate and promising to behave respectfully, I would reconsider. She said he has nothing to apologize for and that demanding one is manipulative. Now invitations are about to go out, and I need to finalize the guest list. If I exclude him, I risk my sister not attending and possibly damaging our relationship long term. If I include him, I risk feeling anxious and resentful on what is supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. So AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to my wedding after he publicly mocked our marriage at our engagement party, even if it means she might not come. AITA for refusing to let my sister announce her pregnancy at my wedding after she accidentally told half the guests anyway. I 29F got married 3 weeks ago to my husband 31M after being together for 6 years. Planning the wedding was honestly one of the most stressful experiences of my life, mostly because of my older sister 33F, who has always had a habit of making big moments about herself. Growing up, she was the golden child. Bigger personality, louder, always in the center of attention. I was more reserved and usually fine with that dynamic until it started affecting milestones that were supposed to be mine. When I got engaged last year, my parents hosted a small dinner to celebrate. My sister used that dinner to announce that she and her husband were thinking about trying for a baby and turned the entire night into a debate about baby names and fertility apps. I let it go because technically she wasn't actually pregnant and I did not want to look petty, but it stuck with me. Fast forward to wedding planning. From the start, she made little comments about how she hoped she would have good news by the wedding. I brushed it off. About 3 months before the wedding, she called and told me she was pregnant. I was genuinely happy for her. I love my sister despite everything, and I want to be an aunt. She was about 10 weeks along at that point. Then she said, I was thinking your wedding would be the perfect time to tell everyone. All our relatives will already be there. My stomach dropped. I told her as gently as I could that I really wanted the wedding to just be about the marriage. I explained how much time and money had gone into planning and that I hoped she could share her news either before or after. I even offered to help her plan a family brunch the next weekend, so she could have her own special moment. She went quiet and said she understood, but her tone made it clear she was annoyed. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, she made several comments like, well, I guess I'll just keep hiding it, and it's hard to keep such a big secret. She was barely showing, and she could easily pass on champagne without raising suspicion. I asked her again the week before the wedding to please not announce it there. She said, fine. I won't make a speech or anything. The wedding day came and was honestly beautiful. The ceremony went smoothly. I did not trip walking down the aisle, and I felt incredibly loved. At the reception, things started to shift. I noticed small clusters of family members whispering and looking over at my sister. My cousin came up to me during cocktail hour and said, "Oh my God, congratulations on being an aunt." I was confused and asked what she meant. She said my sister had just told her she was pregnant, but was keeping it low-key. I felt my face get hot. I looked across the room and saw my sister surrounded by 3 aunts, all hugging her. She caught my eye and gave me a little shrug like it was out of her hands. Throughout dinner, more and more people came up to me saying congrats. By the time dessert was served, it felt like half the room knew. Then, during the open mic portion of the reception, where guests could share short toasts, my sister stood up. My heart sank. She started by saying how happy she was for us and how love multiplies. Then she said, and speaking of multiplying, our family is growing in more ways than one. The room erupted in cheers. She didn't explicitly say, "I'm pregnant," but it was obvious. She held her stomach, and her husband stood up and kissed her. I felt like the air had been sucked out of me. I was standing next to my husband, smiling mechanically while everyone clapped. A part of me wanted to grab the mic and say this was not the time. Instead, I just stood there. Afterward, several guests rushed her table. The DJ had to call people back to the dance floor because the energy had completely shifted. Later that night, I pulled her aside and told her I was hurt. She said she technically respected my wishes because she did not make a formal pregnancy announcement. She just shared her joy. She accused me of being selfish and said love and babies should not be seen as competition. I told her that it was not about competition, it was about timing and boundaries. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's not like you're the only bride in history." After the honeymoon, I found out she had told our parents ahead of time that she planned to hint at it during her toast. They did not warn me because they did not want to cause drama. My mom said she thought it would be sweet and that guests love good news. My dad said I should focus on the fact that my wedding was still beautiful and not let this overshadow it. The thing is, it does feel overshadowed. When people post photos from the wedding on social media, half the captions mention my sister's pregnancy. One aunt even commented that it was such a special day because it celebrated two major life events. I cannot shake the feeling that something that was supposed to be one of the few days centered on me and my partner got partially hijacked. Last week I told my sister I needed some space because I'm still upset. She said I am being dramatic and that years from now no one will remember the wedding details, but they will remember that her baby was announced in a room full of love. My mom says I should apologize for confronting her at the reception because I created negativity. My husband supports me, but thinks continuing the conflict might not be worth it. I genuinely do not begrudge her pregnancy. I am excited to meet my niece or nephew, but I also feel like I clearly set a boundary and she found a loophole to step around it while technically being able to claim innocence. Now, I'm being painted as jealous and attention-seeking for wanting my wedding to just be about the wedding. So, AITA for refusing to just let this go and for distancing myself from my sister after she used my wedding reception to effectively announce her pregnancy despite my explicit request not to. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.